Mr. Desmond Alufohai. He is the Director of Protocol and International Affairs Division at the Miami International Airport, Miami-Dade Aviation Department here in Miami, Florida in the U.S. This is one of the interesting topics. I learned about this particular position while I was working in Europe. They have a similar position there at the airport there in Brussels, and I found out about this one, and I just really thought bringing this to the protocol world it's just really fascinating. At least I thought so to me. So in 1988, this office was created to facilitate movement of diplomats, dignitaries, elected officials, and VIPs through Miami, and as they go to other areas within the United States, right? So doing diplomatic visits or what have you, and then one of the stops and travel throughs is through the Miami airport. So you could just imagine maybe just how busy they are. Mr. Alufohai, it leads the largest protocol office in any airport in the United States. We talked about that. And he has worked as a leader in the international community for more than 30 years. And prior to this current position, he served as a senior international trade coordinator and head of the international trade program for the Miami-Dade County's Economic Development and International Trade Agency. He's also served as the executive director and head of membership services in the training department for the Junior Chamber International, and as a director for growth and development for Africa and the Middle East. Wow. Mr. Alufohai, Desmond, as I like to call him so I don't butcher his name. Sir, the floor is yours. Thank you. And well, I'll let him tell you what his topic is. There you go. Thank you so much.
Buenos dias, bonjour chers amis, buenos tardes, and salam alaikum. My name is Desmond Alufohai, and I'm the Director of Protocol and International Affairs for the Miami International Airport. First, I have to say, Ms. Ladonna, thank you so much for the kind invitation. And I'm so pleased to be part of this panel. You're right, Miami International Airport was the first airport in the United States to create a full-fledged protocol office of any airport, and we are now the largest airport with protocol office, which is unusual for many airports. But we came into much more prominence in 1994 when the free trade area of the Americas was hosted by the Clinton administration, and the airport played a very pivotal role in welcoming all of the heads of states from the Americas. And so we have established ourselves as the foothold for ensuring that dignitaries and diplomats, elected officials that arrive or depart or are in transit at the airport receive their diplomatic rights and the proper courtesies of port that those individuals enjoy. So we have a staff of about 12 that is here to do the daily work. These are protocol officers. And what makes us very unique is that we have proficiency in international relations. We have proficiency in international protocol and diplomacy. And the key theme that I have been hearing all morning from Maria, Pedro, and Ms. Denver, interculturalism. Having intercultural awareness and intercultural competencies are very key to the work that we do. Besides just besides providing protocol expedite service for our dignitaries, my department not only handles the courtesies of port, but we also work very well with the diplomatic community in Miami area. The state of Florida has the third largest diplomatic corps outside of New York and Washington. We have a very large members of the diplomatic corps of Miami So we work with them to ensure that when their principals, their prime ministers, their heads of states, you can imagine that geographic proximity puts us very close to the Caribbean and Latin America. So on any given day, we are receiving a prime minister, a president, a first lady, a minister of foreign affairs that goes through Miami International Airport, because most airports in the Caribbean do not have direct flights. So many of them have to transit in Miami to continue on to their final destination. We also are the only airport that has a diplomatic lounge. The holding room for the presidents that came for the free trade area of the Americas in 1994 was then expanded into a diplomatic lounge. So heads of states, ministers of foreign affairs, dignitaries can hold private meetings while they are at the airport, aside from the airlines lounge. And we also oversee the display of flags in front of Miami International Airport, which were the original flags of the OAS nations that came for the free trade area of Americas. We have now expanded that to include the airlines that have direct flights with Miami International Airport. The key to the success of my department is the relationship that we enjoy, obviously, with the federal agencies, because the airport is part of the government of Miami-Dade County. We are an agency of the county. The airport itself is under the jurisdiction of FAA. So it behooves us to work with the federal agencies such as TSA and CBP. As Ms. Ladonna said, the topic of my discussion today is from arrival to departures and everything in between. So typically, we provide service from the curbside through check-in. So we also work with the airlines. So from curbside, we arrange with the Miami-Dade Police Department to do the pre-sweep, and then we escort the arriving dignitaries to help them to do check-in. We escort them through TSA. You know that, based on diplomatic immunities, there are a certain group of individuals that cannot be searched, and we cannot violate, their person or their belongings. So we work all of this ahead of time with CBP, and a special area of passage is presented to us, and we take them through. And if it's international flights, we work with CBP as well for the arrival to make sure that they are pre-cleared by the plane side. At all times, whether it's with the Secret Service as well, a protocol officer is available, number one, representing the airport and Miami-Dade County, but also ensuring that their diplomatic rights are intact throughout the visit. Some of them may then need the use of the diplomatic lounge, where we provide some privacy for them to meet with the consul general or any member of the community that they wish to meet with, and then escorted to their final destination in town, or escorted back into the post security area for them to catch their flight. On any given, prior to COVID, we average about 2,800 escorts, which averages out to about 7 per day. We are open from 5 a.m. in the morning to 11 p.m. on 3 shifts, 5 a.m. shift to 1 a.m. shift. These shifts are overlapping from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. Because of the flights. Most of the flights from Brazil, Argentina, Costa Rica arrive in Miami very, very early in the morning. So we have to provide protocol coverage for that. Most of the European flights arrive early afternoon, late afternoon in Miami, and then the flights in between. So we provide coverage from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., 365 days a year. So whether it's public holidays, Christmas, New Year, Labor Day, there's always staff available. Because of the protocol office, many of the dignitaries really like to travel through Miami International Airport rather than the airports that do not provide the protocol service, because they do enjoy those courtesies of port that we provide them. The other thing that we do also, we facilitate for the consulates that want to go with the protocol officer to meet their principals on the plane side. We do pre-clearance for them, and we issue them a special pass, VIP escort pass, that they can, because they are not traveling, they do not have a boarding pass. So we do the pre-clearance to allow them to go with us to meet and receive and greet their principals that may be arriving or departing. So in a nutshell, that's the work that we do right here in Miami International Airport. We have received over the years calls from a few airports that are interested in replicating what we do, and we have gladly shared the success of our program that has now been here for more than 30 years. So Ms. Ladonna, thank you for having me. This is very, very fantastic, and I hope that this is an annual event, and I look forward to joining you guys in the future. And I've told Ms. Ladonna to buy her ticket, because she'll be coming to Miami in the very near future for a program that I'm organizing locally.
That's fantastic, so Desmond, and I look forward to it. This was just really an insightful presentation. I wrote down several things. I learned a lot. I had no idea that Miami was had the third largest diplomatic corps in the United States. Shame on me, but it's just really fascinating. I will tell you, and I think I mentioned maybe when we spoke, and then Jennifer Beckett, who is on too, I hope her ears are perking up, but we have this similar service here in Washington, D.C., but a lot of it is at Andrews Air Force Base.
Correct.
So when the dignitaries transfer, they don't go to our main international airport. Correct. They do this at Andrews Air Force Base. And so I worked there in this capacity and then learned about it. And so that brings me to one of the questions that we have here in the chat. Let me go back to it. That asks, how do you handle difficult situations with guests, especially when it might lead to public knowledge and possible embarrassment for all involved? And that's from Maria Shadrova.
And we handle that every day. Of course, we are very trained in protocol, and we do all of our best to ensure that it does not escalate. We are dealing with very high network individuals. To be honest with you, we're also dealing with individuals that have egos.
Oh, yes.
And always, often when these situations arises, believe me, I will get a call from either my director or from the mayor's office, because they will escalate the situation to that level. So what is key is the planning and preparation that we do ahead of time. That's why I'm so glad that we have been discussing about interculturalism, understanding the culture, doing the research. For instance, we were called upon by the airport to provide a report about the culture of Afghanistan when the US started to receive refugees from Afghanistan, and we were called upon to help prepare county employees for the cultural ramifications of receiving folks from that part of the world, because not many people have encountered anyone from Afghanistan. So doing the research and the planning ahead of time almost always will ensure that those situations do not occur. However, every once in a while they do occur. I take responsibility for everything we do, my staff, and the first thing is to apologize, and you do whatever it takes to make sure that it never repeats itself. Interestingly, Miami International, most of the stuff that happens at the airport at the end of the day has nothing to do with the airport employees. But we take the brunt of it because it happens at the airport. If you dig into the issue, it's either the airlines issue, the federal agency issue, TSA, encounter with CBP, whatever. It's really never us, but because it happened in our airport, we have to be called in to intervene. So I would answer the question by saying, plan, 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 prepare, 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 and yet when all else fails, own up to it, apologize, and make sure it never happens again.
Yeah, that's a really great, and I think someone actually put those words in the chat, and I have, I think just one more question here. I'm trying to watch the time, everyone. How do you manage, this is interesting. How do you manage with the delays or clashes of the airlines that involve important passengers? We know you can't control that, but sometimes those schedules, they're your fault because everything is. So how did you manage something like that?
Well, I bring the issue to my bosses every time they need to give me a bigger budget for overtime. Because even if those delays has nothing to do with our airport, based on bad weather elsewhere, they cannot take off and you just cannot leave. So delays are they're not under our control, but we have to make sure that staff is still available. We cannot just leave a head of state in the lounge so we stay with them until, and I've had staff who had to do a double shift because of airline delays or, delays for whatever reason. So I'm trying to increase my overtime budget more and more, and I'm trying to convince my bosses for the need to increase my overtime budget.
Yeah, this is something we all, I'm sure, talk about with the resources here. Desmond, it has just been fantastic having you here. I'm sure many of us have learned something, not just about this experience, but just with the number of diplomatic offices and the work that goes on behind the scenes in another way, right? We don't control the flights, the weather, but there are ways and expectations that VIPs and diplomats will have. And because of maybe what you provide and the service and care that your staff provides there at Miami Airport, unfortunately, that reputation, people want to come there more often. We will have to move on to our next presenter. We hope that you are able to stay on and continue to listen. I know you have your team listening. I mentioned that to some of the organizers, that while our numbers say one thing, people have offices also listening in, and I just really thank you for making the time. I know how busy you are to provide this presentation for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.